U.S. Marine and his community and local law enforcement. After completing a 20-year career in the FBI, he began service in the Department of Homeland Security as the Acting Assistant Commissioner for Internal Affairs before being appointed by President Obama as Chief of the U.S. Border Patrol. He served as Chief until January 2017. He returned to DHS as the Acting Director of Immigration and Customs Enforcement in May of this year and began his current role as Acting Commissioner of U.S. Customs and Border Protection on July 7th. Commissioner Morgan.
Chairman Johnson, Ranking Member Peters, and members of the committee, thank you for this opportunity to appear before you today. I'd like to begin with a story. On May 30th, Border Patrol agents from the Del Rio sector saw a group of undocumented migrants crossing the Rio Grande in Texas. The agents watched as smugglers carried a paraplegic man to the river, then callously threw him in. The paraplegic man, of course, immediately began to drown. Fighting the strong river current, agents were able to reach the drowning victim and safely bring him to shore. Had agents not been there, he would have added to the 172 deaths discovered along the southwest border in desolate locations and rivers, resulting from the dangerous trek and complete disregard for human life at the hands of smugglers. This is one of more than 4,000 rescues performed by CBP this year, with Border Patrol leading the way. This is who the men and women of the United States Customs and Border Protection are. They risk their lives every single day to help and protect whomever is in distress. They don't ask what the person's nationality is or whether they're trying to illegally enter this country. They simply see a human being needing help, and that's exactly what they provide them. The men and women of CBP are not running concentration camps, making those in our custody drink from toilets, nor denying them access to toothbrushes. That is simply not true. This is the kind of irresponsible rhetoric that they have to endure from both the media and even some of our own congressional leaders. It's unjust and does nothing to bring us closer to resolving one of the most divisive issues that we face in our country. Stories of agents saving lives from the drowning Rio Grande, dying of dehydration in the desert, and suffering in stash houses or at the hands of smugglers, that goes unreported. The demonizing of law enforcement professionals must stop. These false, misinformed, and overheated attacks are demoralizing and serves to further deteriorate the public's understanding and perception of what the true issues are and what needs to be done to end this crisis. We should be coming together to focus our efforts on the real enemy, the cartels and smugglers who make billions of dollars at the expense of an extremely vulnerable population while exploiting the loopholes in our immigration legal framework to facilitate their operation. Over the past year, Homeland Security leadership has repeatedly told Congress and the press that we have an emergency on our hands. We have provided statistics about the alarming and unprecedented increase in apprehension. That number is over 800,000 year to date. We have explained how the demographics of this mass migration are unlike previous arrivals and how families and children from Central America present significantly different challenges with regard to their care and processing. Over 450,000 of these apprehensions were family units and over 80,000 were unaccompanied children. Combined, that's over 300,000 children have entered our custody since October 1st of last year. These numbers are staggering, unprecedented, and have overwhelmed every aspect of our border and immigration enforcement system. Last week, I met with the ministers of security from the Northern Triangle countries, who all of them expressed their collective frustration that, quote, the future of their countries are leaving for America, and, quote, they want their children back. We at CBP, at DHS, we are comforting infants. We're taking the sick to the hospital, averaging over 800 hospital visits per day. We are expanding our medical care, ensuring children are provided medical screenings. We're building soft-sided facilities to provide a more adequate environment for families and children, costing tens of millions of dollars per month to operate. We are providing food, clothing, and other basic necessities. We have pulled agents from the border security mission to help process the massive volume of migrants. In some sectors, up to 50% of agents are pulled off the line to support the extraordinary humanitarian effort along our southwest border. We have pulled agents from our northern and coastal duty stations. We have pulled more than 700 officers away from ports. We have called for volunteers from all across the government to help us manage the surge of humanity. The recent supplemental, it helped. But as we've been saying, this is merely treating the symptoms of this crisis. It does not cure the cause. Looks like I'm about running out of time. If I could have just a few more seconds.
Take the time, finish your statement.
Smugglers openly advertise a safe and legal journey to the United States. They tell migrants and their families that there is a policy in the United States that anyone who arrives with a child will not be deported. We have stats and facts to show that's exactly what's being communicated, and our laws support that perception. If there is not a specific and meaningful changes in our laws, our detention facilities will continue to be overwhelmed, our personnel will continue to be diverted from their primary missions to safeguard this country. Legitimate trade and travel will continue to suffer. Our ability to prevent dangerous narcotics and criminals illegally entering our country will continue to be greatly diminished. And smugglers, like the ones who threw the paraplegic man in the Rio Grande, they will continue to profit. Although we are seeing the numbers across all demographics decreasing at the moment, due in large part to the efforts of this current administration, working with the government of Mexico as well as our Northern Triangle countries to address this as a true regional crisis and concern, this is not a durable, long-term solution concerning the national security and humanitarian crisis we are facing. Congress must acknowledge this is a crisis and pass meaningful legislation to address the loopholes in our current legal framework. Thank you for your time. I look forward to answering your questions.
Thank you, Commissioner.